CL back on this weekend show. This show is geared to go out throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. There is trouble, though, in our personal paradises because we have our own men who are charged with protecting and serving us under fire. That's something we cannot stand for. It's something we cannot tolerate. And I want each and every one of you to make up your mind that you will show them your support in any possible way that you can. Now, coming up, I'm going to do this. This segment is very short, and we're going to do about 2 minutes here. We're going to go out, and when we come back, we'll be with Sheriff Steve Prater right here in Caddo Parish, and also our good friend Sheriff Julian Whittington, who is the High Sheriff of DeSoto of Bossier Parish. And that kind of jumped over there because I'm thinking about my good friend Rodney Arbuckle, who should join us by phone somewhere along the line here in the show of DeSoto Parish. And so you stay put there, and we're going to talk more about these incidents that are evolving. Where do all these crazies come from? Where do the Looney Tunes come from? Is there a design on this? Is this something that is by design? And we need to talk about that. And you stay, we'll be taking your phone calls as well, later on the show. And I want to thank each and every one of you, and I know that most of the people that I saw today at the substation, all of you listen to the show, and I want to thank you for that. Michelle, we have a large, in fact, I want to thank you for making us the most listened to talk show in the Arklatex area. We have a large listenership. You'd be surprised how many people are fans of yours. Jay, bring her up.
You never let me out of the studio. I actually live in the studio. He never lets me out.
She likes to run. She likes to run my life. that's what it is. But anyway, I'm CL. We're going to be back with Sheriff Julian Whittington and Sheriff Steve Prater when we return. We can take your phone calls, 320-5335, 320-5335 will be the number to call when we return. I'm CL.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL back with you, your native son, and streaming live throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. That is America, our homeland. And speaking of homeland, I got a microcosm of it right here in the jewel cities of the Arkansas, Shreveport and Bossier. And today I am adding where my roots run deep down in DeSoto Parish, Grand Cane, which is one of the main parts of Louisiana, for those of you who did not know. And on the line with us also is the High Sheriff of DeSoto Parish, and that is my sheriff, Rodney Arbuckle. And in studio with me, I am really proud and pleased to have sitting here with us Sheriff Steve Prater and Sheriff Julian Whittington of Bossier City, Sheriff Prater of Caddo Parish. Today, folks, Sheriff Whittington was led in his spirit to have prayer for the fallen and prayer for our nation. And Sheriff Whittington, I want to thank you, first of all, for coming back here to visit with us. Tell us, what was the genesis of that gathering here today?
It's my pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you for being a vital part of our ceremony today at Viking. You know, I was sitting there last night watching all this and just thinking, you know, what can I do? I'm over here in Bossier Parish, what can I do? When I saw the mayor and the police chief ask for prayer for his department and the people of Dallas, I said, we can do that. Mm-hmm. And so this morning we held a hastily called meeting there at Viking Drive and had a great turnout of people that just wanted to come and say that, you know, we know what the problem is. And without getting into politics or procedures or whatever, we just talked about people that are lost. And I don't mean lost and that can't find the mall.
Right.
I mean lost spiritually.
Absolutely right.
And until we get right there, there's no program or rehab or anything out there that's going to do it. You know, we need re-Jesus and not rehab.
Amen to that. Sheriff Prater, regular on the show, good friend of the show, and thank you so much for that. Yes. Sheriff, you're much more, and you know, Michelle, you were right. It is sort of a yin and yang type thing here we have because they're so different in personality. So, Sheriff, you always talk about political things. Is there some political maneuvering here to make this more about gun control and guns, as you may see it, than it ought to be, in your opinion?
Well, the higher up the ladder you go, certainly they take advantage of it. There's nobody, in my opinion, that's orchestrating all this to happen so that we can go more towards controlling firearms and the possession of firearms. But I think that once this happens, that then it's taken, you know, don't let a crisis go to waste, you know, that kind of an attitude that we hear so often. And I think that's where it goes. And plus some people really in their ignorance and in their zeal to want to think that they have an answer, come up with something that's not the answer. You know, ask the experts. Don't just spout off something and then turn the mic off and say, okay, this is the answer. Because that's not the answer, not to all of us. We know we're out there every day answering calls and dealing with people, and it's not that's not the total answer right there.
And on the line with me is Sheriff Arbuckle. I want to bring you in to this conversation too. A lot of people don't think that this type of thing can happen down in DeSoto Parish where you and I live. They call it flyover country. But Sheriff, we have things that we must deal with down there as well. How prepared are we for that?
Well, you know, I've talked to my supervisors to pass on to their people. One of the things is, you know, that being in a rural area like that, people know that you're deputies and what your occupation is, whether you're in uniform or not. And I've actually instructed my people to, you know, be armed even when they're off duty. You know, we like them to do that, but sometimes they don't. But now I'm admonishing them to be a little bit more vigilant.
Okay.
And also a little bit more cautious, and to understand their surroundings, to see what's coming up behind them, see who's standing beside them, and you know, because it can happen here. And you know, I want all my people to be able to go back home to their families, and I'm just telling them to be extra careful. And you know, myself, as you know, most of the time you don't even see me wearing a gun. and wear the badge a lot of time. Even I told myself and my people that, under the circumstances that we are today, I'm probably going to have to do that. But just because you're wearing a badge, you're a target now.
And that's a shame.
Unfortunate.
That is a shame. Sheriff Whittington, your instructions to your people.
Yeah, likewise. We do this every single day and night, whether it's on the news or not. But we're certainly paying extra attention and have beefed up things for the short term until we see how this all shakes out. I know today there's been some other attempted ambushes and so forth around the country. Tensions are high, and
I want to talk about that. Aware. Let's talk about that. In Valdosta, Georgia. Now y'all get a 911 call. Get a 911 call, and you go to the 911 call. You're not expecting the person at the 911 call to have the mindset to try and ambush you, who's coming to help them. That's not in your mindset, is it, Prater?
Well, it is. It's called condition yellow, and the deputies are taught that no matter what, a 911 call could be an ambush. It could be so many other things, especially a 911 hang-up call. So, yeah, that is from the academy on. You're taught that to be in condition yellow, and the closer you get to the call, move it up a little bit more, not red, but you get it up, and so that's, I know the public may not understand what that means, but that simply means to be more observant, not to have tunnel vision, to take in the whole scene, to be prepared, to just do all the sorts of things that we're taught and trained to do.
Rodney, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Now you have that pretty much the same approach down there. I mean, is law enforcement in that aspect of it, regardless of what parish you're in? Is it pretty much the same when those types of calls come in? Because you guys are now on a higher alert of vigilance, or are you, than you were at 24 or 48 hours, 72 hours ago? How's that working? How's that shaking out?
Well, we always tell our guys to be alert. But like anybody, you do the job day in, day out, nothing happens, and we all get lax. Myself, I get lax. So what we've done is to kind of encourage our people, okay, we need to pick our game up a little bit more. We need to be a little bit more aware of our surroundings, because there's people out there now that want to hurt you.
Sheriff Whittington, I want to ask you about recruiting. Does this hurt recruiting new fresh blood?
You know what? Not really. Not actually with us. Let me back up just a moment
Sure.
on what we were just talking about there. It's we do tough jobs under tough conditions. I don't know in my 30-year career I've ever seen officers the stress level higher. We deal with the normal. I don't know if normal is the right word, but child molesters, murderers, rapists, robbers. That's what we're, And now when you add, terrorists and suicide bombers, and now snipers are going to, take us out when we step out of our car. I mean, it's a very stressful situation, and it puts everybody on edge.
Folks, stay with me. I want to come back to you when we come back. Sheriff Whittington, we're up against a break right now. Folks, you see the situation that these men and women are up against. Why don't you make it up in your mind that we'll give them more support wherever we can? I'm CL. We're going to be back with more of the CL Bryant Show when we return. CL, back with you on this Friday here in the Jewel City, here at the threshold of the weekend, and I certainly hope that you all remain safe out there. And in studio with me are two of our sheriffs from our neighboring parishes, and on the line is my sheriff down in Soda Parish, Rodney Arbuckle. And we were talking to Sheriff Whittington when we left, and you were talking about the preparedness that you have for you tell your people to be prepared for. What should we as civilians, how can we be more vigilant? How can we help you?
There's certainly only a limited number of law enforcement, but there are hundreds of thousands of citizens out there, and don't be hesitant or shy. Call in something if you're not sure about it. We'll check it out. It may be the key, the information we've been waiting for. So let us know about it. We want to know.
So Rodney, Sheriff Prater, if you see something, say something, huh?
Right. If you see something, say something. But there's a lot of other things that you can do as citizens to help us. You can, for one thing, you can encourage the deputies and the officers and let them know that you're one of the good guys. You respect them. If you get stopped at a traffic stop, or if you're suspected of something, go ahead and give up a little ground. Don't make the deputy come to you and say, well, why are you stopping me? Why are you doing this? Just please give up ground, just like we are trying to get our deputies and police officers and everyone else in law enforcement to be more cognizant of the fact that people are scared. People are this. Well, also the public needs to understand that we are not scared, but we are very alert. Mm-hmm. And so don't do anything that's going to escalate. Both sides need to understand the other side and to realize what's going on. You also can put pressure on your state representatives and your federal representatives and your federal people. How can we build brand new countries? We can go over to Iraq and Iran, build new schools, new churches, new whatever they got over there, and you can't even buy bulletproof vests and help us buy bulletproof vests for our deputies? You cut that program out. What about body cameras? You're insisting on body cameras. Okay, a body cameras for the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office is going to cost about $200,000 a year, including storage and everything else that we have to pay. How are we going to pay for that? Help us with that, federal government, state government. Don't demand things and then make us cut out things in the ways that we're serving the public. So make some sense out of something you do. Instead of requiring body cameras, the state legislature require training for everybody in Louisiana. I say that every time I come here. Have training for anybody that's got arrest power should be fully post-certified. In Louisiana, if you just work 39 hours or you want to do it as a hobby, if it just strikes your fancy, you can go out and you have the same power that I have with no training. You can stop people, you can wear a uniform, you can wear a gun. All somebody has to do is swear you in. So that's some common sense things that you can do to help us.
That's great. Rodney Arbuckle, Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle on the phone with me as well. Sheriff, let me ask you this now. It seems that young people are somewhat leery of law enforcement themselves, probably more so than people our age. And what can we do? What are you doing? What can sheriff's department and police departments do to make them more aware that they, as Sheriff Prater said and Sheriff Whittington said, you're the good guys?
Well, and I think one of the things that we do, I know Sheriff Prater is involved in that, but we have the DARE program where we have deputies at the schools. We have school resource officers that are there to help young people with their problems. They get to see that that's the person just like their dad or just like their mom that's there to do a job and try to protect them. They're there for their protection. Where the problem has come in my opinion, is social media. Social media, anybody can put anything they want to on social media, and so many people just fall into it, swallow it, hook, line, and sinker, just like it's the gospel. And, anybody can put anything you want to on there. The people need to be more objective into that stuff. And parents letting their kids get on this social media and their heads getting filled with stuff. I mean, just today, it was constantly, I was monitoring social media. It was constant, everybody on this side needs to be done this way, and everybody on this side needs to be this way. And, I just would love to see some of the leaders, such as the preachers or whatever, because, in the Bible that I read, it talks about that, we're to be under civil government. God instilled civil government, and we're to be into it. And that government is put there because God allowed that government to be put there, and we're to be in subjection to it. I'm to be in subjection to it. Sheriff Prater's to be in subjection. Sheriff Whittington. Actually, every one of us have our positions because God has allowed us to have that position. We have been put there. And preachers, and just really, it kind of upsets me when they get up there and tell them to disobey the law, to do this, do that. They ought to be preaching the gospel. And I think the gospel is very clear that we're to obey, whether we like it or not, we're to obey the civil laws of the land. And there's a lot of things in this country that I don't like, but I'm still obligated as a Christian person, and not only that, as a sheriff and a constitutional officer, to carry that out.
I like it. I really like it. Sheriff Whittington, when we think about our young people there and how many of them are hitting the streets now with, this hands up, don't shoot thing and all that type thing, the validation for that, from what I have seen and what I have studied, it's based on a lie. As far as that's concerned, would you speak to that?
Yeah, the whole thing is based on a lie. But unfortunately, there's no one home, there's no adult in that young person's life to tell them and separate fact from fiction. There's no one at home on some of the television shows that are on, the video games, to separate fact from fiction. And young people are going to get their information from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from the parents. The homes, 53% now of births are to single moms. It's a downward spiral from the get-go. Certainly some overcome and improve, but some don't.
As this, Sheriff Prater, as this progresses, as this evolves over a period of time, I'm going to want to have you, and of course you, Sheriff Whittington, back to give us, and Lord knows, folks, I hope we've seen the worst and the end of this. I really do. And we can see the end of this if you will do what you need to do to back the blue. You know what? Michelle, we may want to make a hashtag out of that. You need to do what you need to do to back the blue. Because if the bad guys understand that they're not only facing those who are charged with upholding laws in our community, but if they know that you are there as well, we'll have a very strong force for good in our communities. Sheriff Prater,
Yes.
Sheriff Whittington, I want to thank you.
My pleasure.
Could I
Yes, sir. Go
one
ahead.
thing right quick to the citizens of Caddo Parish in our area? You need to just cool off and settle down and don't get all this rhetoric involved in it. Let us worry about it. You be alert, be careful, but just settle down. 48 hours ago, we were the same people that had fixed your flat. And 48 hours ago, you were the same one that nodded at us as we drove by in a patrol car. 48 hours. We hadn't changed. You hadn't changed. So just relax, Caddo Parish.
Caddo
Just
Parish.
relax. And be aware some serious things have happened. We're working on it. We're being prepared, and we are prepared as law enforcement, all of us. So just relax.
And to my sheriff, Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle, I want to thank you, man, for being on with me.
CL, one thing, if I may, is I just want to take the hats off to the police department out here in Dallas. And the point I'd like to make is these people that were protesting about the police, they were there to protect them. They were there to do this. And when this shooting started, they didn't know whether they were shooting protesters. They didn't know whether they were shooting police officers. But they were still there. Even these people were there against them. They were there to protect them and continue to fight the threat to try to protect them, even after what they had been through.
Got to leave it there, Rodney. Thank you so much. You got the last word on Prater and Whittington. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, man.
All right, be good.
Yes, sir. I'm CL. We'll be back with more of the CL Bryant Show when we return. CL back with you. And folks, I don't know if that's been done before. I don't know if we've had all three the sheriffs in, two in studio and one on the line. I don't know if we've ever done that before. Michelle, I don't know if we've never had, that's never been a show that did the three sheriffs together, right? We don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
But
you're the bridge builder.
It may be a first.
Yes, it's a tri-parish interview.
Tri-parish.
Do you like that? It's a big word.
I like that.
Well, you did it. You're the bridge builder.
That's right.
The connector.
We even bridged between Arbuckle and Prater today. So, but anyway, listen, folks. Coming up in the show is an interview you do not want to miss. It will be an interview with Pastor Stephen Broughton of Dallas. His church is not very far from the zone where the officers were shot, and 5 of them who lost their lives. You know, last night I was just getting in and trying to depressurize from the day, and my son called LC, and he said, "Dad, are you listening to Fox? Are you listening to the news?" And I said, "No, your mom and I are about to get a little dinner here and just talk a little bit." And he said, "Well, you need to turn it on because it appears that some deputies, some sheriffs, police officers have been shot down in Dallas." And folks, I was just absolutely floored by that. 320-5335, 320-5335 is the number to call if you want to talk here in this segment. Who do we have, Michelle? Keith is on the line. Keith, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm calling you from Grand Cane. So
Grand Cane!
hello, Grand Cane resident. Hello.
Hello. We're giving a big shout out.
Well, I just saw on KSLA, and I've heard it from a couple different people, that the FBI and Marksville Air Force Base have been alerted to possible riots this weekend here in Shreveport.
Wow.
Didn't know if you knew if there's any truth to that.
I had heard it. Of course, some of the sources did come from people who were immediately around us, but of course, I didn't know whether that was something to be shared or not. But obviously, you know it, and so it must be something that is common knowledge. I have heard that, and folks, you heard from the 3 sheriffs here in DeSoto, and also DeSoto, Decatur, and Bossier City. So, if in fact this is something that we have to be aware of, Michelle, is being reported that the FBI is alerting us that there might be riots and so forth here in this.
And they're going to get back. They're going to answer that for us. It would have been great to have this question, but they're saying that that's not what they're expecting, but to be alert is what they said.
Okay.
And that, people get dramatic and make threats all the time, and they could be erroneous.
Copycats.
So we don't need to get hysterical, and that's what terror is all about, is
Right.
making you scared to death to leave
Right.
your house.
So let's be on alert. Tell your neighbors to be on alert. Keith, tell your neighbors to be on alert. How's everything down there in beautiful Grand Cane?
It's hot.
Yes, it is. And listen, man, I want to thank you.
Big vegetables when I get home.
I want to thank you for listening and thank you for calling. And we'll talk to you real soon down the road.
Thanks.
Folks, he's right. We need to be vigilant. We need to pay attention to what's going on. And I guess in these days and times, there is no question about it. In these days and time, we do have to be very much aware. Tell your wives. When Sheriff Prater was with us last time, he said something that has stuck with me. I shared it with my wife when I got home, and it's more than important right now to think about where you're going to meet, what you're going to eat. That's what your family, those are 2 basic things that your family need to know. Where we're going to meet, what we're going to eat. Those are the 2 basic things. You drop your daughter or son, whoever, your children off at the mall or wherever you're dropping them off at, and something happens. You need to know where we're going to meet and what we're going to eat, just in case something goes really, bad. And in these perilous times that we live in, those are the two questions that you should, every member in your household should know: where we're going to meet and what we're going to eat, and start putting aside that stuff to eat now. Because in a situation like this, according to the Saul Alinsky, and Pastor Stephen Broughton and I will be talking about this when we return, when I come back from the break. In a Saul Alinsky driven type of mentality that exists in this country right now, you have to be prepared for anything, because not only do we have enemies internationally, Americans, it is evident, there is no doubt in my mind that we have enemies of the state walking among us. Folks that you pass on the street every day. Let me tell you something. When I saw the guy that they killed, that they took down, I said to myself, there's no way I would have just passed that guy up and said, hey, you have to be on the lookout for him. So that's why we have to be on high alert. Back with Pastor Stephen Broughton of Dallas, Texas, when we return. CL back with you on this Friday on the weekend show here, and glad to be with you. And listen, folks, for all of you who have heard the various rumors about possible riots and all that type of thing that might be coming up or going on here in Shreveport, I have it on good advice that there is no credible evidence. There's no credible evidence for anything in our area. Key is heightened vigilance while going about your normal routine. Be watchful, not fearful. Be watchful, not fearful. That's the important thing, folks. Be watchful, not fearful. And so, we're getting reports that folks are, up in arms and scared and all this kind of stuff. There's no credible evidence that that should be the case at all. Now, we're waiting on Pastor Stephen Broughton to ring in or to come in to the studio. But in the meantime, I want to get back to the very reason why we're here on this Friday live. And I want to definitely have you understand that we are wanting to bring to you the idea that we should not be discouraged. We should not be crazy about the things that are transpiring around us. Remain calm and understand that it was a journey to get to this point. It was a journey to get here. And so I do not want us to misunderstand or lose sight of just how great a journey this was for America to come from 1776 to 2016. That has been a major journey. But as I said in the opening, if we were to gauge where we have come from, let's just say from 1964 to now, we would have to take into account or ask ourselves the question, what have we learned? Pardon me. Whatever was in the studio is back.
People probably did that, CL. Who knows? But yeah, we've been so fortunate to have all the law enforcement in here. You today at that vigil, the community coming together here in Shreveport and Bossier and DeSoto Parish. And there's a post that we've put on our Facebook page that's the statement actually from the Bossier Sheriff's Department. And they've asked people to stay calm, just like you read, to stay calm, but to be vigilant and aware. But they're very well trained. They're very compassionate. And I think the big message today, too, is we know these policemen. They're not out to get people. You said it earlier. There are people that try to say that policemen target African Americans. Is that a fact, CL?
No, absolutely not. Let me tell you something. Black folks, let me tell you what, and see, folks, I get knee deep in trouble with folks who look like me when I start saying these type things. Let me tell you why. Because when you look at the reality of existence, of black existence, let's just say in this country, you're talking about 13%. That's it. 13% of the population, which means that maybe, let's say 4 to 5% of that may be young people. 3% of that, 2.5 to 3% of that may be young black men, like my son. So when you start talking and when you start throwing around phrases like young black men are being targeted in America, guess what? That wouldn't be hard. That percentage would not be hard to track down and eliminate if, in fact, there was an active movement to track them down and eliminate them. There's nobody hunting young black men. First of all, they're not easy. They're not hard to find. Young black men aren't hard to find. Secondly, it's a very small percentage of Americans. And then thirdly, if they were actively being hunted down and targeted, then that could be very easily done. Let me tell you who is tracking them down and hunting them down and indeed shooting them. Other young black men. That's what's happening. That's the fact of the matter. We got a call, Michelle? Okay. That's the fact of the matter. And let me tell you this. I get a lot of flack. For saying stuff like that. But that is true. Who do we have? Jack, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
I just want to share a statistic with you.
Yeah.
4% of African Americans killed by guns are killed by policemen.
That's a statistic.
Yes, Heather McDonald in her book, War on the Police. 12% of whites and Hispanics killed by guns are killed by policemen.
And you know what, Jack? What's really important about you bringing that out is it strengthens the statement that they never want to use those types of shootings until it is race related, which means that they're trying to fan the flames of racism and racial tension in this country. Got a break, Jack. Thank you so much for your call.
She's a good girl. She's crazy about Elvis. Loves horses and her boyfriend too. And it's a long
CL, welcome back. And 3205-335 is the number to call if you want to speak with me. On the line with me now is Gene. Gene, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastically well, man. I hope you're well, too.
Yes, sir. I actually could not remember y'all's phone number. I have y'all's app downloaded on my phone, and I called y'all through the app. I was listening to it,
Yeah.
the app, and called y'all through the app because I couldn't remember y'all's phone number.
Well, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that that app is, in fact, serving its purpose. And, folks, you can download the free CL Bryant app yourself onto your iPhone or your Android device. It is the CL Bryant Show. Just go to your app store and put in the CL Bryant Show and download it. What do you make, Gene, of what's going on in our nation right now?
There is actually a website you can go to called The Guardian, and they have a section on there called The Counted, and it is strictly about murders by police officers. And you can break these statistics down by state, race, age, sex, male, female, and if you go in there and you break it down and you go to white and black, whites are killed at a 2-to-1 rate this year alone and in 2015 over blacks. And if you break down the age demographic, how the media makes it out to be hunting young black men, 18 to 24 is actually like the second lowest demographic of black males that is killed by police officers.
But it's probably the highest of black young men killed by each other. I'm going to check that out because in the movie Runaway Slave, and you know what? We're going to give him a free copy. Write his name down and get his information for us, Michelle, so that I can give him a free copy of the movie Runaway Slave. In our movie, and of course this has been said many times, but believe me, it's true. The most dangerous place for a young black man is in a neighborhood in an inner city with other young black men. And as far as abortion is concerned, the second most dangerous place for that young black man is in his mother's womb. That is statistically fact, Gene. And so we hear these people making all this hoopla. And listen, I'm not trying to make light of it, but I am trying to bring some sanity to what people are actually trying to feed us. Gene, I want to thank you for your call. Thank you for listening.
Yes, sir.
And let me tell you something, folks. The hysteria sometimes that is that surrounds so much of this. You can't buy into a lot of that. Who do we have, Joe? Karen on the line with me. Karen, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
Hey, CL, thank you.
Hey, Karen, what's going on?
I'm here in the greatest city in the world for me, Dallas, Texas. I just want to update you on what's happening here. I was horrified at the loss of life and just wounded spiritually about what was happening in my great city that I love. But I will tell you, there is light at the end of this tunnel. There have been prayer vigils going on almost since this happened. I attended one today at noon. There are ones that are going on all over. And if out of this tragedy, this horrific tragedy, if it can bring us closer to God Almighty, then
yeah, so be it.
will have came out of it.
Absolutely. That's good. Of course, the loss of 5 police officers is a tragedy. And in the midst of all of that, Karen, they were trying to peacefully protest or peacefully gather, and they were marching down the street. And this is one thing that I hope was not lost on folks who indeed were watching it. And that is, you saw the direction that the protesters, once the shooting started, you saw the direction that they ran. They ran toward the police while the police was running toward the shooting.
That's right.
And these were people who the police did not even have their armor on for that type of situation. But yet they were there to protect and to serve. I could not think of a better way to illustrate their importance to our society than what happened last night, even though it was as stressful as it was.
Agreed. And what we've got to do is stop the hatred against the police. We also have to be honest and be bold to say this group, Black Lives Matters, they're complicit in a lot of their narrative and stoking the flames.
Yeah.
As is this administration. So we can't change which we don't acknowledge.
We can't change what we don't acknowledge. Karen Watson, listen, I want to talk to you next week as this progresses through the weekend. I really hope that we've seen the end of this. But still, I want to do a sort of a postmortem on it next week. I want you to call in so I can spend more time with you. And download the free CL Bryant app to your phone or your Android device. Go to the App Store, Karen, and download that. Just the CL Bryant Show.
We'll definitely do. Thanks for all your great work.
God bless and keep you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Amen. Bye.
Bye. Yes, friends, we're going to be back in just a few minutes with more of the show and more of your calls. And 320-5335, 320-5335 is the number to call, and we will be happy to take your calls when we return. Still trying to raise up Pastor Stephen Broughton, because he is one of the great minds in our country, and I definitely want you to have the benefit of him and hearing him before you go through the weekend. I'm CL. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL back with you on this Friday in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex. Folks, we have had everyone on this show. I mean, really great minds on this show. Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, all of them have been on this show, Colonel Allen West. But there is not a better mind in the country than the voice that I'm about to present to you right now. He's in my movie, The Runaway Slave, and some of the most provocative parts of the film come from this mouth and this man, a friend of mine and someone I'm really glad to call my brother, Pastor Stephen Broden. Welcome to the C.L. Bryant Show.
Well, it's good. It's good to be on your show. I thought you were talking about somebody else.
You know I'm talking about you. Pastor, you're there in Dallas, and your congregation is not far from Ground Zero there in Dallas. Give us, I've taken a lot of flack here today by saying these words, that the personal responsibility that black people should have taken for themselves even before, as we did before segregation, we're not taking that responsibility now. That has led us to this point. Please speak to that. Share with us your thoughts on how did we get here at this point in 2016.
Wow, that's a heavy piece to address. But there are a number of factors that are contributing to where we are as a community. And where we are is not a very good place. And there are a number of factors that have produced, I believe, a mindset that is responsible for the kind of misplaced energy, if you will, within our community. I think we are victims of the progressive agenda that has sought to exploit our vote to accomplish their purposes. And their purposes is summed up in the phrase or the mantra that was a part of Barack Obama's campaign during his first time that he was running, to fundamentally change America. And the progressives in America have been looking to subvert and to remove our Judeo-Christian heritage from the public square and to replace it with a secular humanism or a doctrine that I call doctrines of demons. Socialism, communism, Marxism, human secularism, Darwinism, all of those isms are anti-God systems that are devoid of the divine. And as a result of us embracing those doctrines from our leadership in particular, I'm speaking not of the common everyday person on the street, but the leaders in our community have bought hook, line, and sinker the socialistic mantra, and they have sought the government to be their support, their aid, and their deliverance and rescue to the negation of their personal walk and relationship with God and personal duty and responsibility that is expected of us within this personal intimacy with God. And so we are victimized of poor leadership, of a leadership that has sold us out from top to bottom in order for them to position themselves within the progressive institutions of our land as leaders and voices of influence within that arena, to the negation of what is most important in our community: education, jobs, self-determination, self-reliance, and personal duty and responsibility, families, all of that has been sacrificed at the altar of self-indulgence, self-aggrandizement on the part of those who claim to be our leaders.
Let me ask you this. Pastor. You're immortalized now as saying, on film, you're immortalized as saying that there are people who we have put in leadership positions who are there solely to keep our community. You called it the proletariat. If you would explain to us what the proletariat is all about and why there are people who we have put as our leaders who are there solely to keep us down. Talk to us.
The proletariat in the communist mindset, or in the thinkers of the common, are common men and women, or what they call useless idiots, people who are there as pawns. I'm writing a book now that's called Progressive Pawns. The black community are pawns on the chessboard of life, and they're abused by the kings and queens and the so-called elite, the power elite, to accomplish their goals. So the proletariat are the common, everyday people, the blue-collar workman who's on the street, the everyday person, who is used by those who are the cadre of the elite, who are pushing an ideology or pursuing a philosophy, communism, socialism, and they're pushing that philosophy, and then in order for them to accomplish that, they are using poor people to push against the system. If you recall, when you and I had met many years ago.
Hold that thought right there, Pastor. Hold that thought right there. I'm up against a break, but I'm going to be back with Pastor Stephen Broughton. And don't you go away, because you want to hear what more he has to say. And folks, I had intended to have him on for an hour, but of course, we had to get him, we had to corral him and everything. But I'm going to have him back next week. So be sure to download the free CL Bryant Show app onto your phones, and you can hear this anytime. I'm CL. We'll be back with Pastor Stephen Broughton when I return. Don't go anywhere. Yes, sir. Born in the USA and back with Pastor Stephen Broden. Pastor Broden, give us your website or name of the church or how we get in touch with you.
Well, I'm the president of and working in a group now called the Protect Life and Marriage Texas. That's all one word. Protect Life and Marriage Texas.org.
I love it.
That's www.protectlifeandmarriagetx.org.
Pastor, you were talking about how so many times the blue collar, and it's just for the sake of conversation, those who are in the so-called lower classes are used as pawns. Are they aware of that? You were speaking to that. Are the people who are being used as pawns the useful idiots? Are they aware that they're idiots or being used that way?
Being used that way? No. By and large, they're not. Oftentimes, those who are exploiting them are using the systems and how the systems provide support and aid, and giving these people access to those resources that the system makes available. They come across as heroes, as champions of their cause. And they're really not champions as much as they are exploiters. You remember in Cloward and Piven's strategy of orchestrated or manufactured crises, they use the weight of the poor against the system. They use a Hegelian dialectic, theses, antitheses, synthesis. The antitheses, it goes into the system. It takes the system as it exists, the theses, and it says, here's how it could be better. You don't have equality. You're not treating poor people fair. And so the system capitulates and say, okay, well, we'll make these things available. And when they make them available, those who are in the left will go and recruit as many poor people as they can to come in and access the system.
Wow.
And getting the resources of welfare, like, for example, welfare. And you get as many people on the rolls of welfare, and you crash the system. They become cumbersome, a weight on the system. And they're using that to drive and to change the system. So, no, if you recall, when Obama started handing out Obama phones, remember that Obama phones, everybody was excited about Obama phones?
Yeah.
Poor people were just excited about getting a phone.
Wow.
And Obama was using that to crash the system, to put weight on our economy, to destroy the economics of our system. That's how he was using it. But they were being the recipients of something they didn't have before. They were excited about it, and Obama was their champion.
Wow.
These people are sinister, they're dark, and they're doing evil in our culture, in our society.
That is amazing to think that this is. I use this word a lot on the show, Pastor, here the last 2 years we've been on, and it is design. I believe that so much of this has been designed when you and I, probably even before you and I came along, but we were young, when all of this began to be designed. What do you think about the design, and where is that design is leading us, and where is it taking us, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. I think it is orchestrated. It is engineered. And we've been seeing this for years. And all we have to do is go back and look at the Fabian Society and look at what Woodrow Wilson was all about and what he was attempting to do. He was the golden boy of the progressive movement. And he got in and he made a mess of things. And we've been moving in this direction for a long time. And I think the progressive left in America believe we're at the tipping point right now. And they can tip this thing over. And all they need to do right now, Brother Bryant, is to get rid of the one thing that stands between them and their world order. And that one thing is the church. If
Wow.
they can dispossess this nation of its judicial or Judeo-Christian heritage, they will win the day. And I think we were fast moving in that direction. When we see same-sex marriage, when we see transgender bathrooms and showers, when we see the whole redefinition of family and sexuality and our morality is changing right before our eyes. This is not by accident. It is by design.
Pastor, Go ahead, Pastor. Finish it.
As I sit here in Dallas, and I see this awful, horrific shooting that has taken place here in Dallas, where these officers were shot down, gunned down, senselessly. And I look at what is happening with the relationship between our community and the police. This is not by accident, friends. Those of you who are listening to the show, this is not by accident. This is by design. This is Hegelian dialectic at its best.
Wow.
I sent a document to you this afternoon.
Yes, I got it.
That document suggests, and there's no way that I can prove this, and you can't either, but we all sensed it. You sense it, and I do too, that there's a real possibility that we could go to martial law behind this racial divide. And if we go to martial law before the election, this president will suspend the election and will terminate the Constitution, and we will move into an arena or into an area that none of us can even imagine.
And you know what's amazing about what you're saying, Pastor, is that I would never have imagined that a 911 call in the midst of all of this that's going on today in Valdosta, Georgia, would result in policemen being ambushed. You know, it is just amazing. I would have never thought that we'd even be talking about Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump at this point in the presidential election cycle in 2016. Pastor, I got to have you back next week, and we must continue this conversation because we're just getting started. I'm about to bring the show to a close, but listen, God bless you. God keep you is my prayer, Pastor Stephen Broden.
God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Pastor Stephen Broden, we're going to have him back next week to see how this is shaking out. And in Dallas, Texas, I'm CL. We'll be back to close the show for the weekend when I return. Don't you go anywhere. CL, back to close out the show today. Pastor Stephen Broden, we got to have him back in the studio with us. We're two sheriffs, Caddo Parish Sheriff Steve Prater and Bossier Parish Sheriff Julian Whittington. And then on the line, joining us online, was Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle of DeSoto Parish, the great parish of DeSoto Parish, the main parish in Louisiana, in case you didn't know. But I'm going to have them back. Yeah, I think, Michelle, that may have actually been a first.
That somebody said DeSoto Parish was the main parish in Louisiana. I think it was the first.
No, that all three were joined us.
Yes.
Here in studio.
And I think the big thing, they texted me about that FBI claim.
Just read that. Do you have that to be
well,
read
and
again?
I've got even more details on it. It's going to be on our Facebook page. But again,
what's that? What's our Facebook page?
The CL Bryant Show.
Tell them.
Yes, the CL Bryant Show,
and
we're going to post that.
And they can download
the app, and everything. You have access to everything when you download the app. But again, for them to keep in mind that they need to pay attention, but not to get hysterical, because all kinds of random crazy things are out there. Facebook is the worst. People are just saying whatever. And we even get calls here sometimes. People just say random things.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have to just be cautious, but not uneasy and scared.
Be vigilant. Remember what TJ said. That's Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson said, the price of our liberty is eternal vigilance. Be on the watch. I want to thank SS Truck, Bossier Magazine, and Brown Dodge, along with Red Wing Shoes and Mercatech, for sponsoring this portion of the CL Bryant Show. And if you get a chance, stop by our friends at Yoakum Toyota. See my friend Jared Hamilton back there. I'm CL, and I certainly want to thank you for being along with us on this journey today. And be vigilant. And let's keep an eye on our men and women in blue who see the underbelly of society while you sleep safely in your beds at night. I want to thank God for bringing us to the close of yet another day. And I want to thank him for our men and women in uniform who defend our right to speak our mind around the globe. And until I'm able to talk to you again, I'm CL. And may God bless and keep you all.
And to the families left behind, we'll stand by your side. And the bond will never be torn for those who wear the uniform.